Good evening, everyone. I'm John Small.
And I'm Taylor Kinsler. Ahead on TV5 News at 6, authorities are looking for a missing 9-year-old boy in northern Penobscot County. And the director of the Maine Ethics Commission now says a state lawmaker from Orono likely violated state law. We'll also have these stories.
The Bangor Area Recovery Network is asking for investment from the community. I'm Brenna Kelly in Brewer, and I'll have that story coming up.
Organizers tell us it's the longest running event of its type in the entire country. I'm Brian Sullivan at the Sportsman Show in Orono. Coming up, we'll tell you all about it.
This is WABI TV5 News at 6.
Authorities are searching for a 9-year-old boy who left his school in Stacyville today around noon.
Sheriff's deputies are looking for Rowan Ross. They say Ross lives in Sherman and left the Katahdin Elementary School on foot.
Maine's driver's licenses are no longer considered legitimate forms of identification to gain access to some federal facilities. Our state has refused to comply with the federal government's Real ID Act for more than 10 years now. Brandon Doyen attended a public hearing on a bill that would change that. He joins us live from our Central Maine Bureau tonight. Brandon?
Thanks, Taylor. For years, Congress has granted Maine extensions and waivers that allowed our state and other states to remain uncompliant, but that's not the case anymore. Starting next year, Maine's driver's licenses and state IDs will no longer be an accepted form of identification to board commercial flights in the U.S. But legislation has been proposed that would ensure Maine's compliance with the Real ID Act. It would require Maine's Bureau of Motor Vehicles to employ facial recognition technology and the scanning of documents such as birth certificates when Mainers apply for an ID. The information would then be held by the state. The Real ID Act was enacted to protect our nation from terrorism. Supporters of Maine complying with the federal government say if nothing is done, it will prevent Mainers from traveling freely as well as prevent veterans from accessing military facilities. Those against it believe the extra information obtained by the government could easily be stolen by hackers and identity thieves.
The restrictions and barriers and hassles that will rain down on our helpless citizens, our businesses, and our veterans will be devastating. And we as lawmakers will have no place to turn when people back home look us in the eye and ask us why. Why didn't you fix the problem when you had the chance?
We support efforts to ensure that all states become compliant with the Real ID Act and receive extensions before the federal deadlines to avoid consumer confusion or problems traveling.
It's not a question of if the data will be breached, but when and to what consequence. I urge you to consider the costly consequences if the state of Maine's Real ID database were breached, allowing identity thieves to rob all Maine license holders of their identity. This bill would make Maine a one-stop shop for identity thieves.
The bill has support from the governor and the Republican and Democrat chairs of both the House and Senate. If passed, there would be a transitional period allowing Mainers to obtain the correct ID. The bill heads to a work session with the state's Transportation Committee, who will decide whether or not to send it to the full legislature for a vote. Taylor, back to you.
Brandon Doyen live from our Central Maine Bureau tonight. Well, feedback is encouraged from Bar Harbor residents tonight at a town council meeting. Councilors will open the floor to residents to talk about issues ranging from parking to cruise ships. Brenna Kelly is live there now. She joins us now with more. Hi, Brenna.
Hi, Taylor. And that will start right off the bat, that public comment. There are a few residents here tell me they're looking forward to getting their voices heard on a range of topics. Joining me now is Art Greip, who's the attorney representing the Petitioners Committee. Hi, Art. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, Brent. It's night that folks who enjoy Maine's great outdoors have been waiting for all winter.
Certainly a sign that spring is almost here. The 79th annual Eastern Maine Sportsman Show is underway in Orono. And that's where we find Brian Sullivan tonight at the Fieldhouse on the UMaine campus. Hi, Brian.
Hi, John. Hi, Taylor. Yeah, there is something for everybody here. Whether you want to have an addition to camp, big old bag of beef jerky, or learn a little bit more about the great outdoors here in the state of Maine, the Sportsman Show is here for you, as is Tony Richard of the PCCA. Tony, talk to us about this event now in its 79th year.
I think this is a great event. As I mentioned earlier, it's a rite of spring. And we have a really diverse show. It is a family-oriented show. We have over 120 exhibitors.
Good evening, I'm John Krunjak. Ahead on TV5 News, a potential blizzard overspreading our state. We've got live team coverage of how it will impact Maine. Plus, a second person has died following an officer-involved shooting in Vassalboro. And we'll take you to the U.S. Toboggan Championships in Camden. It's all ahead on this Sunday, February 12th, 2017.
is WABI TV5 News at 6.
Thanks for joining us. Snow has begun to fall throughout most of the state as what's expected to be the biggest snowstorm of the season so far moves on in. We've got live team coverage tonight with all angles of the storm covered. Zach Warren is standing by in Bangor with the latest on storm preparations, but we begin with meteorologist Ariel Hooley. She is tracking the very latest in the TV5 Forecast Center. Ariel.
Hi, John. Yeah, we've been tracking the storm for a couple days now. It really has been one of those storms where all the models have been in agreement that this is going to be a very strong storm. Now, as we said yesterday, this still does have the potential to not be quite as strong, but right now I want you to plan for the worst case scenario. You can see that snow already moving in to areas like Waterville, just now into the Bangor area. We got our first flakes outside of the studio just before 6 o'clock. Now, as we can see, once we toss to Zach, you can see that the snow's already coming down at a pretty good clip. It doesn't take much, and the snow's going to already start to fall pretty heavy. You can see the darker blues already into areas like Lewiston, south of Augusta, and into Portland. We're already seeing reduced visibility and some slow driving out there. So once the snow moves in, it's quickly going to ramp on up, and you can see it's quickly going to engulf the entire state of Maine as we head into the rest of your evening hours tonight. Now, in terms of temperatures, we are more than cold enough to support some snow out there. Almost all of us below that freezing mark, into the teens and 20s at this hour. So if you do plan on stepping out to get a head start on cleaning off your car, you want to go ahead and bundle on up if you do so. We do have plenty of watches and warnings in effect. We do have a winter weather advisory for the area shaded in pink, a blizzard warning for the area shaded in red, and that's because we are seeing reduced visibility. You can see already in Bangor, we're down to about 1.5 miles, already down to 1/4 mile in Portland, and just 1 in Rangeley. 1/4 mile, that is one of the pieces of criteria that you're going to need to hit that blizzard criteria. You need to have visibility at 1/4 mile or less for 3 or more hours with winds 35 miles or stronger, as well as falling, drifting, or blowing snow. Now, we have the potential to see all of that as we head into the evening hours tonight and especially into early tomorrow morning. I'm going to break it all down for you coming up in your full weather in just a little bit. But let's get a live look at what's happening outside as we check in with Zach. Zach.
Thanks, Ariel. As you can see behind me, it's starting to snow outside of our studio in Bangor. State officials have been prepping for this storm all weekend, and the buildup to it has already been causing headaches for some travelers. Predicted snow over the weekend caused businesses and government offices to shut down across the state. Several cities banned parking overnight to clear the streets for cleaning. At the Bangor International Airport, most flights were canceled due to impending weather.
It's very frustrating. We were scheduled to fly out tomorrow at 7:40, got canceled. We switched it to 2:45, it got canceled. So now we're trying to fly out today, to try to make it.
Director of Washington County Emergency Management, Mike Heinerman, told residents to plan for the worst.
We're expecting 18 to 24 inches of snow, maybe more. Pretty close to 24 hours of blizzard conditions from the sound of it.
A big concern in Washington County is the risk of high winds, which could potentially knock out the power.
If the power goes out early in the storm, the crews may not be able to get out there to get it fixed. So you may lose power for the entire storm. Plan ahead for your food, your water, your shelter. Have an alternative source of heat or someplace to go that's heated.
After an already busy weekend on the highways, Maine State Police said they are ready to respond to any crashes that occur during the storm.
It's been a busy last couple days of snowy conditions on the highway. We're expecting and prepared for more crashes to deal with them, and we're just suggesting people give themselves extra time. If you don't have to go out on the highway, don't go out on the highway or any roads for that matter.
That sentiment is echoed by Ted Talbot from the Maine Department of Transportation. He says they've already prepped their plow trucks for the storm, but the best course of action for drivers is to just stay home.
The less people on the road, the more we're able to do in the way of cleanup and maintaining the roadway. This is a very dangerous storm. Visibility will be near zero through most of it. So the best thing for everyone to do is to stay inside. Let the plows do what they need to do in time for everyone's Tuesday commute.
That parking ban in Bangor runs from 11 o'clock tonight until 6 in the morning tomorrow. We've also gotten word from Concord Bus Terminal in Bangor that they've suspended all services tomorrow. Meantime, Bangor police have some advice for folks who want to venture out into the storm. They say bring a blanket, water, working flashlight, small shovel, a charged cell phone, snacks, and mittens, not gloves. Police are also asking everyone to check in on shut-ins, seniors, and neighbors as the storm progresses. And as this storm does progress, we'll be sure to update you. John?
All right, some good advice. Zach Warren live in Bangor tonight. Zach, thank you. Meantime, our neighbors to the south have been experiencing the storm for a few hours now. Paul Burton has the latest from Boston.
One snowstorm gone, another on the way. It's been a steady flow of snow. Some wish it would go.
Are you ready for it to end already?
Oh, yeah, I was ready 2 weeks ago to never see another snowflake again.
Folks are still digging out from this past week's winter blizzard. Janet Lee is buying some shovels and says snow fatigue has set in.
How do you think I feel?
Tired of it?
Rotten, apprehensive, and sick to death of it. Feels like 2 years ago.
Folks will never forget the 2015 record-setting snowfall. Most of it came in the month of February.
I was here 2 years ago for that winter, so I think after living through that, a couple more inches of snow won't be too much. Especially since I'm trying to get ahead of it now.
Shovels, ice melt, windshield wiper fluid, and snowblowers are the items people are buying this weekend, as well as bread and milk.
I just have a few things, nothing too, I'm not getting too crazy about it, not too worried.
I'm getting gas for my snow blower, I'm making sure my snow shovel's all set, and I'm getting food for the birds.
I'm buying dinner for tonight and ice melt for the driveway.
Getting set for another snowstorm, while some wish this winter was over.
I was ready 3 months ago. I hate winter.
I'm going on vacation next week. I hope I can fly out. That's all I care about.
That was Paul Burton reporting. Be sure to stay with us for continuing coverage of this winter storm. Now to some other news of the night. A second person has died following a police-involved shooting in Vassalboro Friday. This as we learn the identities of the victims. According to the Attorney General's office, 25-year-old Kadar Bailey of Gardner died Friday. And 18-year-old Ambrosia Fagre of Oakland was taken to Maine Medical Center. Fagre died of her injuries yesterday. State police say they got reports of a suspicious vehicle near Arnold Road just after 4 Friday afternoon. Police were also told a burglary had happened in the area. Authorities encountered Bailey, who was the suspect, in a truck on Arnold Road with Fagre as his passenger. Police say Bailey then intentionally rammed a state cruiser. Police then fired their guns at the vehicle, killing Bailey. The 3 officers involved were a state police lieutenant, a state trooper, and the Vassalboro police chief. They've all been placed on administrative leave, as is protocol. The AG's office is investigating. A firefighter was injured in a house fire in Waterville. Crews from 3 towns were called to the 2-family home on John Avenue around 7 last night. Took firefighters about 20 minutes to get the flames under control. We're told 4 people were home. They were all able to get out safely, but a firefighter did suffer a leg laceration. There was significant damage on the 2nd floor. The 1st floor had mostly water damage. The owner of the home did have insurance. Residents, meantime, staying with family and at a nearby hotel. Officials say the fire was sparked after a 2nd floor resident emptied an ashtray into a trash can, which then ignited. Firefighters tonight reminding folks to always wet down ashes before discarding them. And the water going to Maine schools is tested and safe, but the water quality inside schools is largely unknown. A voluntary state program is covering the cost of analyzing the lead content of up to 10 water samples from each school. The federal lead and copper rule doesn't require water utilities to test for lead in schools, and most schools in Maine have not had their water tested for lead yet. Interested water utilities and schools can contact the state's testing lab before May 31st. The lab will send out sampling kits. Depending on the results, schools may also have to pay for additional tests. And straight ahead on TV5 News at 6:30, the U.S. National Toboggan Championships wrapped up in Camden today. We'll take you there a bit later. But first, next in sports, UMaine women's basketball taking on Stony Brook in the annual Play for K game in Bangor. Zach Warren has highlights next, and sports. TV5 News at 6:30. Coming right back.